Grip socks are great, but why pay up to $40 for a single pair when you can pay a lot less? Stop wasting money and get yours for just $14.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
The Nike Phantom GT is one of those football boots that at this point you either love or hate. And you wouldn't hate them because they're bad football boots, more so because it's kind of simple by Nike standards. And given that it's a boot that took over for two different lines, both the Phantom Venom and the Phantom Vision, I think a lot of people just expected a little bit more. With the Phantom GT's claim to fame being in the name of the boot itself, GT, which stands for generative texture. And as you can see by the very intricate and detailed texturing that is scattered across the boot that varies depending on which area of the foot it's positioned in, we were led to believe by Nike that this is something that they spent tons of time, research, and development on to create the perfect texture on the upper of a pair of football boots. Fast forward 1 year later and we now have the Nike Phantom GT2. However, this time GT stands for generic texture because as you can see, it's just a chevron pattern repeated across the entire upper. On a more serious note, although the generic texture isn't exactly a joke, what I want to do in this video is a complete tech overview of what's new and what's the same with the Nike Phantom GT2. Of course, to be followed up by my official review when I get my hands on the boots, hopefully very, very shortly. So stay tuned to the channel for that. And if you don't want to miss out on that video, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when it goes live. So first things first, when and where can you get a pair of Phantom GT2s? And surprise, they're available right now just about everywhere. This has to be the most low-key release of a new generation of football boots we've ever seen from the Nike brand, certainly in the social media era. And it also releases right on the heels of the super hyped up Nike Tiempo Legend 9, where while it was unveiled last week, it officially comes out today, the same day as the Phantom GT2, where Nike has yet to make even an Instagram post about its existence. So I'm not exactly sure what the plan was there. To make this launch even weirder, it launches in this new black pack colorway, which is kind of like the Academy packs that Nike started years ago, where it's just a colorway pack for people that want predominantly black boots, something a little bit more low profile that pros aren't actually going to wear. Very strange for an initial release. However, they are available now. The price has not changed. When you're talking about the Elite model, it's still $250 for the low cut version and $275 for the mid cut DF model. However, like I mentioned with just about every new release, you do not have to pay full retail. So if you check out the first link down below, that's going to take you to the new releases page on my website where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick up not just the Phantom GT, but all the latest releases below their normal retail price. As for what's new, I think the first thing that pretty much everyone's going to notice is the new look, which I must admit I think looks a lot better. And that's not to say that the Phantom GT was an ugly pair of football boots, although some people do have that opinion. But this stripe that flows along the lateral side of the upper and then through the toe box area, depending on the color combination, it ends up making the boot look a little bit chunkier than it perhaps should. And they haven't changed anything up as far as the lacing system and the general shape of the upper. As far as I'm aware, it's the exact same fit and the exact same silhouette, but adding those extra stripes and positioning them differently on the Phantom GT2, I just think makes the boot look slimmer in profile overall. It still maintains the same placement for the Nike swoosh at the front as well as at the heel, and you also have significantly larger ACC branding that's been moved to the back of the heel and translated into 3 different languages, so it'll be interesting to see how that affects performance. As for what's physically different about the Phantom GT2, according to Nike's own website, there is only one physical difference, and that is the generative texture on the surface of the upper, where on the original Phantom GT, the generative texture is made up of these little lines that all flow in different directions and provide different patterns throughout the foot that, according to Nike, have been generated based on how the ball makes contact with each area of the foot based on all this testing and development that they went through. But my criticism from day one is great, that texture feels and looks really cool, but then you place this Nike swoosh right in the middle that has a super generic kind of ridge texture, and it kind of just defeats the purpose of having all this fancy texture right around it, given that that's going to be a contact area on the ball more often than not. Nonetheless, the effectiveness or impact of this texture is pretty much just a little bit of roughness on the surface of the upper that provides some additional grip on the ball without being sticky. But if we are comparing it to other control boots on the market, if you want to categorize this as a control boot, when you compare it to something like the Adidas Predator with its demon skin rubber spikes, it provides nowhere near the same amount of grip, nor does it provide the same impact in terms of what you can actually feel in terms of the tech on your football boots doing something for you that you're actually going to notice. Now, what I would expect from Nike in a second generation of the Phantom GT is an evolution of their generative texture technology, which is what they've given us. However, that evolution is about as generic and lazy as they possibly could have made it, where they simply took a chevron texture pattern, which we have seen from Nike in the past, and they've repeated it across the entire upper. Granted, this time it does go over the Nike swoosh, so you have some consistency there that wasn't on the Phantom GT. But if they spent all this time and effort in positioning all of these little lines in certain directions and at certain heights on the Phantom GT, how does it make any sense at all that they just made something so much more generic for the second generation but claimed that it's an overall improvement? And look, we talk about football boot marketing on this channel pretty much all the time, and that's because we have to, because all of these brands like to push these new technologies on us and make these claims that may or may not be true. And in the case of generative texture, it's one of those elements that provides a little bit of additional grip on the ball, but that's about it. In reality, that's all it's doing. And in reality, I'm expecting the texture of the Phantom GT2 to feel pretty well identical to that of the Phantom GT1. So I don't expect any significant improvement or even a decrease in performance going from the first to second generation. But I do think it's totally contradictory on Nike's part to come up with something that is at the very least visually complex in the GT, where they told a story of developing this texture by way of all this research and then come out with a GT2 that maybe is a little bit cooler looking, but is so much more generic and pretty much throws everything that they preached on the Phantom GT1 completely out the window. And that's it. Other than the change up in the texture pattern, which I don't foresee actually being a noticeable difference, it's the same Flyknit upper, it's the same off-centered lacing system, the option for a low cut or mid cut design, an internal plastic heel counter, the exact same sole plate and stud pattern, and I'm doubtful that there's gonna be any significant weight difference based on the minimal changes made. So I guess what I'm getting at here is if you really like the Phantom GT1, you're probably really gonna like the Phantom GT2, given that it's almost exactly the same boot. This is definitely more of a Phantom GT 1.5, if you can even call it that. And I don't want to say that I'm disappointed, especially not having tried the boots yet. There is the potential, the possibility of Nike tweaking the shape of the upper, where maybe the Phantom GT2 has some slight refinements to it that make it fit that little bit better, which can ultimately make a significant difference. But on paper, according to what Nike is telling us, they are basically releasing the exact same boot but giving it a new name. With all that said, while I may be a little bit disappointed on what the Phantom GT2 ended up being, I still think it's going to be a solid pair of football boots, given the fact that the GT1 is a solid pair of football boots and there aren't many differences between them. Nonetheless, if you have the Phantom GT1 right now, or you just recently got a pair, I wouldn't feel too upset that there's a new generation, because I just don't see them being that different at all. But of course, my review will be coming soon. Stay tuned for that. I will, of course, share my brutally honest opinion with you guys, as I always do. And just stay tuned to the channel for a bunch of new boot releases, because it's going to be a pretty busy couple of weeks. If you have any questions, as always, leave them down below in the comment section and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to support it with a like. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you don't miss out when the next new video goes live. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.